It's Republi-Con, and just like Comic-Con, everyone's dressed like a lunatic. The coronavirus enrolls in school. Trump commits a felony.
Send it in early, and then go and vote.
And Jerry Falwell Jr. lets people fuck his wife. All this and more, today, in Old News. Every day, we're reminded,
pull down your mask, please.
2020 is fucking nuts. Last year is a different time. When you dig through YouTube looking for news, if it suggests something from 9 months ago, you're like, why would I look at news from back then? It might as well be the 1950s. They call this the new normal, because no matter how it ends, permanent changes are taking place. The way we work, play, learn, and live are completely different from January. It's everywhere we look and everything we see.
Welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
The disruption to our way of life regularly battles the effects of the pandemic itself.
This is the most anxious I've ever been, I think, in my entire life.
But it's given us time for introspection, to look inward and see who we really are as a country and as a people. And we don't really like what we see.
All right, boys and girls, we need to watch the door. Boys, I need you to clear this table. All right, make sure you have something in your hand to protect yourself.
Who here is scared when they go through these drills?
For the first time in modern memory, my generation will be worse off than my parents and grandparents were.
A Colorado man spent 2 weeks in an ICU fighting off the coronavirus. Then he received an $840,000 bill.
Thankfully, there's a place you can go where the coronavirus doesn't exist. Everyone has the same opportunities. And institutional racism is a figment of our imagination. The Republican National Convention. The 4-day rally, led by impeached president and man whose friends are all in prison, Donald Trump. Traditional color and pageantry. All the stars are there. Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump, Melania Trump, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Laura Trump, Tiffany Trump. Yes, in a glorious show of American nepotism, 6 of the 12 keynote speakers shared the same last name. But they weren't the only stars at this spectacular event. The first speaker,
I'm Senator Tim Scott from the great state of South Carolina,
was a sign of the diversity to come. Maybe in 2024, there was Rand Paul, Mike Pompeo, Mike McHale, Mike Pence, Karen. These people, I don't know their names, but their qualifications include pointing guns at people protesting racial injustice. And that's it. That's their entire qualification.
These radicals are not content with marching in the streets. They want to take over.
Yes, the RNC gave prime time to sweaty criminals who threatened the lives of American patriots. And the very next day, a 17-year-old kid shot and killed 2 protesters. But in this world, there's no virus. There's no masks, no distancing, no racism.
What's the name of that building?
And the economy's never been better. The Republican National Convention. Fuck reality.
That is the reality of America right now.
Unfortunately, the coronavirus does exist. In fact, there's now more than 6 million cases in the United States.
A pandemic is unforgiving. If you get it wrong at the beginning, the consequences are catastrophic.
Florida showed a 950% increase in COVID-19 cases since the governor reopened the state. Nearly every California GOP senator is in quarantine after coronavirus exposure.
The hell are you supposed to be?
Robert Pattinson tested positive for the virus, delaying production of The Batman. And a Minnesota biker who attended the Sturgis motorcycle rally has died of COVID-19. This is the first fatality traced to the 10-day event that drew more than 400,000 maskless right-wing assholes in inefficient, unnecessarily loud bikes to South Dakota, causing at least 260 cases in over 30 states. There are so many huge outbreaks on college campuses that we can just say most. Most college campuses have massive coronavirus outbreaks, topped only by public school campuses.
In Moore, Oklahoma, a student knowingly attended class after testing positive for COVID-19. Nearly 24 fellow students now quarantined.
Where the virus has found a happy home in large groups of people smashed together for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
I will always help my students, but to give my life for this job, I'm not sure I'm there.
The University of Alabama ordered its faculty to keep quiet about the outbreak.
The University of Alabama now looking at more than 1,200 cases of COVID-19.
Many public schools are inviting children to enjoy disciplinary action for posting photos and videos of packed hallways and classrooms.
The student who shared these images was suspended.
And there's been a slew of cyber attacks on our nation's schools.
A 16-year-old student is now in custody.
But it turns out most of those are from kids who just don't want to go to class.
It is disheartening that one of our own students has admitted to intentionally causing this kind of disruption.
Dr. Fauci is begging people to not fuck up on Labor Day like they fucked up on Memorial Day.
You don't want to be someone who's propagating the outbreak.
And the CDC is finally sacking up by temporarily halting evictions through the end of the year. They say it's a public health issue because evictions force people to move around a lot and share housing, which ups the risk of infection. No shit. Turns out they could have done this the whole time. Now the CDC is telling states to be ready for a vaccine as soon as November 1st. Yes, 2 days before the election, with a vaccine that shouldn't be ready for another year. This, of course, led to fears that the agency is under pressure to pump out anything with the word vaccine slapped on it. Whether it works, or is dangerous, or oops, it killed 5 monkeys, doesn't matter. The nation will now play guinea pig to a hastily released product so the president can save face right at the election. The commander-in-kook also retweeted false COVID death statistics from Mel Q, a prominent QAnon personality.
I've been a big supporter of mental health. I'd recommend that people who believe it maybe should take advantage while it still exists.
Talked about shadow people on a plane with leaders of Antifa who don't exist.
People that you've never heard of, people that are in the dark shadows. We had somebody get on a plane from a certain city this weekend, and in the plane it was almost completely loaded with thugs wearing these dark uniforms, black uniforms with gear and this and that. They're on a plane.
Have you guys found that plane load of people in uniforms and weapons and flying around? I mean, you know, have you found them yet?
And what happened is the entire plane filled up with the looters, the anarchists, the rioters, people that obviously were looking for trouble.
Anybody found that plane? What in God's name are we doing?
Told Sarah Sanders to take one for the team and fuck Kim Jong-un after he gave her weird middle-of-the-hair parted googly eyes at an event. Then he insulted American soldiers who were captured or killed, calling them losers and suckers.
Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers, and calling the Marines buried there suckers for getting killed.
When my son joined the United States military, he wasn't a sucker.
Sir, do you need to apologize to service members and veterans?
No, it was a fake story.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
The servicemen and women he served with, particularly those who did not come home, were not losers.
I never liked him as much after that because I don't like losers.
Who the heck does he think he is?
And threatened to cut federal funding to several major Democratic cities affected by social justice protests.
Threatening to take away federal funding from this city while we're still in the grips of this crisis. It just makes no sense.
He can't come back to New York. He can't. He's going to walk down the street in New York.
Because, he says, they are allowing anarchy, violence, and destruction.
The President of the United States can't interfere with federal funding for cities and states just because he feels like it.
His threat may not be legally viable.
We have laws in this country.
but at least it makes him look like a dick.
Forget bodyguards. He better have an army.
Then for dessert, he told his followers to commit voter fraud. To test the mail-in system, the just committed a felony president said,
Send it in early and then go and vote. Let them send it in and let them go vote. And if their system's as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote.
Let us remind all of our viewers that voter fraud is illegal, like jail time illegal.
He once again suggested to his supporters that they should consider voting twice. State officials have said it's a felony in some cases. Just curious what you make of it.
It is. It is a felony.
And the sitting president telling their supporters to do this is also just so illegal. Attorney General and grosser version of John Goodman, Bill Barr, claims he doesn't know if voter fraud is illegal.
That would be illegal.
I don't know what the law in the particular state says.
You can't vote twice.
Well, I don't know what the law in the particular state says.
Yes, the Attorney General is unclear of the legality of voting twice.
You're not allowed to vote twice. Like, you need me to tell you that.
I mean, he says and does things that no other president that I'm aware of in American history's ever done. And we all go, well, there's another ridiculous, illegal, inappropriate thing he said, but we says so many of them, it doesn't matter.
The amount of election interference going on right in front of our eyes is staggering.
He wanted to, maybe we should delay the election.
Russia is actively seeking to boost President Trump's re-election chances.
Write-in ballots are fraudulent, not a single bit of evidence.
And he's not even hiding it.
So therefore, they don't have the money to do the universal mail-in voting. So therefore, they can't do it, I guess, right?
He'll allow our most basic services to come to a halt.
He has no sense of service, no loyalty to any cause other than himself.
He's okay with letting people go to jail, or even die, if it gets him what he really wants. A presidential term where he isn't worried about being reelected.
So Donald Trump will do anything and everything within which to win.
What we've seen over the last 4 years is a Donald Trump with gloves on. The last 4 years were all about 2020. The next 4 will be all about him.
We all know he's not changing.
What will an unconstrained Donald Trump look like? We've never had anything like this before. For examples of what he might do, we have to look outside of America, at places that have dealt with true dictators, with the knowledge that that's exactly what he hopes to become. He doesn't want to be president, he wants to be king. And brace yourselves, because he'll do whatever it takes to get there.
There's no bounds to what this guy does.
I'm the only thing standing between the American dream and total anarchy, madness, and chaos.
And in other news, famous pastor and son of even more famous pastor Jerry Falwell Jr. is in the middle of a delightful little scandal as it's revealed that he's a fan of cuckolding. Reports come from the family pool boy, Seriously, who detailed the encounters where he would nail Falwell's wife while Jerry sat in a dark corner gazing fondly at the activity and jacking his dick all around.
I want to break free. I want to get out of this. I don't want to be affiliated with this family,
said the pool boy, claiming the former pastor is both a hypocrite and super gross. Self-described fanatic about voting and former movie star Arnold Schwarzenegger put his fortune where his face is on Wednesday when he posted this tweet.
Most people call closing the polls voter suppression. Some say it's budgetary. What if it made it easy and solved the budgetary issue? How much would it cost to reopen the polling places?
Since a shitload of polling places in non-white neighborhoods across the South have been shut down after a 2013 conservative Supreme Court made that totally cool.
Is closing polling stations about making it harder for minorities to vote, or is it because of budget? If you say it's because of your budget, let's talk.
Thank you, Arnold. You should get into politics. And finally, the king of the rocket men was spotted in Los Angeles. Reports came in from 2 different airline pilots with astonishing tales of a man in a rocket pack flying 3,000 feet above the city.
Tower, American 1997. We just passed a guy in a jetpack. We just saw the guy pass by us jetpack.
We don't believe this was a stunt or a threat. Having lived in Los Angeles, we know he was just trying to beat traffic. Now that's social distancing.
Only in LA.
I hope he's wearing a mask.
That brings us to the end of our first season. But we'll be back for special election episodes in October, which we're calling No Decision 2020. And as you know, television goes off the air this time every night. Join us again tomorrow morning for Howdy Doody.